This is Comicbook Crossfire, and I'm going to do a Rob's Got Issues. Hi, I'm Rob Bloom, and I'm going to first do a quick review of a couple of DVDs I have purchased recently, starting off with the JLA Adventures Trapped in Time and the Justice League War, both having come out in the last few weeks, and both dealing with the Justice League. The first one I'll discuss is the JLA Adventures Trapped in Time. I found out about this 2 days before it hit the store, or maybe even the day it hit the store. This was a Target exclusive. I was told by Tracy that because of the deal that the Justice League had with Target for their marketing, where if you were in a Target you saw all the toys, candy, the summer memorabilia that came out last summer, and there's still stuff right now, the Valentine bears and things like that. This kind of was playing off that, and it was an original movie that was exclusive to the Target stores. It's straight to DVD. The thing that was very unique and personally cool about it was it is absolutely the Super Friends told with a modern storytelling ability, such as, they're not all the same character wearing different costumes. They are very true to who the individual characters are. Batman is Batman, but Superman is Superman. Aquaman is not just a blonde Superman. It is the DC characters done in a Super Friend universe. I loved it. I really, really liked this. It was a little, the teeny thing that I found odd, which I find odd in anything that has been done since the Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, Batman, Justice League universe, is when you use different voices for these characters. I've grown to love, especially Batman and Superman being done a certain way. And when you get into these, I don't remember who did the Superman, but Dietrich Badrich, who has done Batman and the Brave and the Bold, was actually really nice doing this. But some of the others were just kind of abrupt. Not bad. They did a wonderful job. I just personally, it's been many years, and I completely enjoyed the original voices. But let me get into some of the other things that were unique. We had Cyborg, who didn't come until later on in the Super Friends, when it was like Challenge of the Super Friends and the introduction of Firestorm and some of the Fourth World characters that Kirby had. But this really played off of a Lex Luthor and even a Legion of Superheroes. I hope they make more of these. For I believe it was $12, maybe less. I can't remember how much I spent on this. This was such a good buy. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I hope they do more. If you are a friend of the old Super Friend, if you are a fan of the old Super Friends, if you just have a nostalgia for the old classic cartoons, or if you're a new fan of the Brave and the Bold, maybe the new Green Lantern, it's definitely geared towards children, but they care about the characters. They do their voices, their character voices right. I highly recommend getting this DVD. It's well worth it. Then Justice League War. This is another one of the original DC Universe original animated movies. I have just recently learned that DC will do 3 of these a year now, and 2 of which will be in the DC animated universe. It will be, they know and have admitted that what Marvel is doing is really catching on. And along with the stingers at the end of the movie, they like the idea of there being a shared universe. There's good and bad here. The good thing is you build a universe that you can hit the ground running. You can tell multiple stories using the same characters, and you're building a world the same way that Marvel Universe did. The bad thing is, which when the certain movies would come out, they would do them in the style of what the original penciler had done, or at least in the same vein as that penciler. And they would do really unique stories, but I think the way that they have answered that by having the third movie be like an Elseworld type story that can be whatever they want in the style of whatever they want. I'm told that the next two movies are the Son of Batman, which will be told in this same universe, using the same actors' voices that are Batman and so on. But then the one after that will be Batman Arkham something, which is based upon the characters and creations from the Batman Arkham video game, which I think is wonderful. But that will be in its own self-contained universe. So I think by doing that, they're kind of answering both, that you have the self-contained universe, the way Marvel does their movieverse, and you still have the ability to do some unique things that don't fall into a category. You can do Superman Red Sun, which I heard is in discussion. I've always been a fan of maybe one day doing Kingdom Come, but Tracy and I have discussed that maybe the only way you could really do that would be to do CG animation versus, like a Toy Story type feel, where you have to make it almost as super realistic as possible, because that was the way the original story was done. I could see it being done in traditional hand-drawn animation, but it would take away something that made the story itself special, because it was not only a unique futuristic story, but it was painted by legendary artist Alex Ross, so that added an element that I don't think you would have got with your typical penciler, no matter how talented that penciler may be. So I agree with Tracy that if they had done it, if they do the animation style in something as well unique, then that would probably be a positive move. Getting off track, let's go back to talking about Justice League War. There's some good and bad. They have decided that they are taking Aquaman out of this, and in his place they have put Captain Marvel, or as they are calling him now, Shazam. That they make it work story-wise in some ways. They don't give all the backstory, baggage, and origin of how he becomes Shazam. And they cover how his powers are different and unique from Superman, as in they really emphasize that he's magic-based, and he has electric lightning bolts and that coming off of him when he is in use of his powers. So he does appear to be different than Superman. But to me, it still seems redundant. For me personally, I've never cared to have him on the same team unless you are doing like the Justice League cartoon that came out, in the mid 2000s, where you're throwing everybody on the same team and not just 7 characters that are all unique in their own way. To me, Captain Marvel is very similar to Superman in his power set, not necessarily in his characterization. That's just a personal preference, and I think the movie did a very good job of justifying him to be on the team, especially in his looking up to and idolizing the character Vic Stone, being a big fan of him as a football player, watching him, and then one day becoming a ally on the same team. So in that aspect, I think they at least did the best they could to justify putting Captain Shazam on this team. But again, if it were up to me, I would have preferred to have Aquaman. Having said that, the stinger at the end lets you know that there is an Aquaman in this universe. So you can't rule out that Aquaman won't show up. Some of the other good things, I really, really enjoyed the banter between Batman and Green Lantern. That was a fun thing that we haven't seen in a long time, especially with the grim and gritty Batman. I think they did a good job of still capturing that Batman is a loner that doesn't want to be on these teams, but sometimes sees the need to have something because there are many things greater than him and his crusade in Gotham. So he knows that he has to sign up with these other characters. But the banter, almost a brotherly type of back and forth between him and Hal, especially when Batman reveals that he's Bruce Wayne, and Hal's like, "Who the hell is Bruce Wayne?" There's some great one-liners, some of which have been stolen from the comic series that this is based upon, which I think they do a fairly good job of capturing the spirit of it. Maybe other things that they capture from it, maybe the innocence and the newness of each of these characters, who may be personally established but not necessarily established as a hero or as a teammate. This is an origin team, or an origin story of the Justice League team, of them all coming together, and it's meant to be where they're unsure of their powers, unsure of how they're going to work together, and all want to showboat a little bit. I do not like the way they portrayed Superman and Wonder Woman flirting. It seems a little too over the top. I think it's being done fairly well within the comic book universe right now, but this seems like it really wanted to push it. They do have a funny line where Wonder Woman does something, I can't exactly remember what, and Superman says, "You're strong." And she says, "I know." There's some funny things like that, but then it just seems like the flirting is really over the top and almost to the point where it's annoying. And maybe that's just because as a comic fan, we know where it is leading to, and that, Lois is kind of out of the picture in this new DC universe. So who knows where they're going to take it. I don't think it's bad, and it doesn't really knock the story down too much. I just would have preferred to have seen a little less of it. Again, the voices you hear, actors who've done these voices forever come in, and somebody new does them, and it's abrupt, but I really actually have liked all of the actors who portray the characters. Not one of them was, "Oh, that just doesn't work." They all work wonderfully. Flash, I like the way they're playing him less like Wally West and more like Barry Allen, which is the way they should, because it is Barry Allen and Wally West is the goofball, and the goofball doesn't exist in this universe. Other things, I did feel like Darkseid was a little misused, or maybe just generalized would be more of an accurate way to put him. He came off more as a force of nature, a monster, and not really as somebody that has a personality. He just, "I'm going to invade, and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to kill anything that gets in my way." And that's kind of the way I felt about him throughout any time he spoke or his appearances in it. Maybe it's because we know more as comic fans what he is like, and that he does have at least some personality. I just felt it was a little flat. And it's not that you really even needed to get to know him. He represented a threat, and they fought and defeated him, and that was good enough for the story, and I guess you really didn't need to go into it. Anything else I'm trying to think of that really stands out about the movie? And I would say my favorite part would be the relationship between Batman and Hal Jordan. It was very nicely done. After that, I guess I will close it on the Justice League DVD reviews and go to the traditional Rob's Got Issues. Some of the I'm looking at about 3 weeks, maybe a little more, worth of comics. I have not done a podcast of any sort in a while. I have seen Tracy. It's been a while now, but we watched the movie together. But we really didn't get a chance to do any podcast or discussion. So I'm trying to do my best to play a little catch up. Uncanny Avengers, number 16, leaving with a giant being the key word here, cliffhanger. A lot is going on with Rick Remender's Uncanny Avengers. Many characters are dying. some you kind of feel like won't be permanent, but every one of them kind of tragic. There's a large story going on, and it really feels like Remender is trying to tap into something larger in the Marvel universe that will be later called upon, even though we have other things going on in the Marvel universe that I think are taking precedent to this story. But I think one day there's going to be a giant payoff for this, because again, it's involving both X-Men and Avengers, Marvel's two big flagship teams. um, I think the ramifications are going to be huge one day, that maybe Remender is just kind of planting seeds, even though this story itself is huge. Do not get me wrong, this story itself is monstrous. Um, I'm just going down the list here. Some I have read out of this, and some I have not. Justice League 3000, number 3. This is the third issue I've read, obviously, because it's number 3, but I had told Tracy when I picked one, I was really excited for one, and then I read the premise, and then they changed art teams, and a couple other things happened, and I got a little less excited. And reading the first issue felt like a little bit of a letdown. The second issue felt like more of a letdown. Then I read what Keith Giffen has in mind, and I read the third issue, and it gives me a little more hope. I see me sticking around for at least the first story arc. I don't want to spoil a whole lot, but obviously it takes place in the time when we would assume the Legion of Superheroes is going on, but we learned that the Legion we know of, that we had seen at the beginning of the New 52, we learned that that Legion was the Legion of Earth 2, if I'm not mistaken, because I stopped reading that Legion. It was boring. But this seems to be taking place in DC proper, Earth proper, and it's taking place in the year 3000 approximately. We don't know if this Justice League is clones, although Geffen has said many times they are not clones. They don't seem to have the exact memories of the Justice League characters. They have vague memories of the basic stuff. Batman in a cave, parents died. I'm Bruce Wayne. Superman knows that he was Clark Kent, raised on a farm. But they have vague recollections of anything really outside of those facts that everybody knows. So it makes you think that maybe they're clones, maybe they are some kind of memory chip put into a fake body. There are some clues in here that make me think that maybe this is the real Justice League brought to the future somehow. I won't really say why I feel that. If you read and see some of the clues, maybe you'll see it. Maybe it's just a gut instinct on my part. But I do feel like there's something bigger going on, and maybe when Geffen, being one of the co-writers on the Big Summer crossover, I shouldn't say it's a crossover, it is a weekly book that seems to have ties to a futuristic story that could be taking place at the same time, makes me hopeful that this ties into that somehow. And I would be okay with it, because I just like what I think I'm seeing. Thor, God of Thunder, I have the two most recent issues, and I have not read them. Tracy and I had discussed that Thor had maybe stayed its welcome too long under the last story arc with, I'm drawing a blank on the villain's name, and the artist being Garney. They were well done. They were very good. Not enough to even fathom leaving the books or stop collecting them, but it was getting a little bit monotonous, and I was ready to move on. The last issue of that turned out to be very good. And then I have these two, which I'm told by Tracy are really good. Jason Aaron is doing a wonderful job on this book. It has been a really nice stepping stone from the previous Thor stories by Fraction and MJS. So I'm glad to see that they are still taking the care that Thor deserves. Along the lines of other Avengers, I'm back on board with Captain America, and even though it says number 1, I think number 1 is supposed to signify a new story direction, not necessarily because it's number one, because it still has number 16 in the corner. 16 now. Uh, Man, I can't think of another character that has been put through more crap than Captain America. And I love reading it. How the man handles it, the last few issues, the Steve Rogers just represents the ideal of being an American soldier. What is best about being who he is the beacon of light in the Marvel Universe. And even after being through the ringer that is unfathomable, he still shows that he is the greatest symbol of justice and democracy. I'm sounding all sentimental, but he really is that beacon for the Marvel Universe. And the thing that I like is Remender is doing a very good job of showing that. Remender, you're beating the fuck out of this guy. Let up a little bit. Loki, Agent of Asgard. I have not yet read this. I really don't recall ordering it. I knew there was a bunch of number ones coming out this month, and I think, what the heck, I'll put it on. I'm positive I did not order number 2. So this is going to be a make or break issue. I don't like Twilight Loki looking here. He looks very much like a character out of the Twilight series. I adore young Loki and traditional Loki. This seems like it's something in between, like it's teenage Loki with really nice hair and great facial features, but we do see glimpses of traditional evil Loki. So who knows what we'll get. It's not the movie Loki, people, but it's by a team. I don't recognize any of the names. Al Ewing, Lee Garbett. I don't know any of these from anything previously. The book, thumbing through, looks beautiful, but unfortunately this will probably be a make or break issue for myself. The Earth 2, I just got the annual and the most recent issue. I read it in the order of I read issue 20, and then I read the annual number 2. Earth 2 has been the weirdest ride for me. When it started, I was a huge fan. I thought Robinson had some really unique ideas. It changed and seemed to get stale. Then it kind of rose again and fell, and then I really got sick of it right towards the end of his run. And I don't know what made me buy the... I dropped it. I dropped it for about 5 issues, and maybe not even that long. Probably 3 issues. And then I got to his final issue, and I thought, what the heck, I'll pick it up. And the big reveal at the end was, wow, whoa, what are they doing? This is his last issue, and this is the cliffhanger he's going to leave. If you know anything about comics, you probably already know that Superman, who we had thought previously died in this Earth 2, the Earth 2 Superman, is back somehow as a pawn of Darkseid, and he is decimating Earth 2. He is killing good, bad, and ugly in his way, taking no names, and has all the means to do it because he's Superman, with no gumption whatsoever to even pause for whatever. And it left me very curious. And I grabbed the last few issues. Since that point, I had been collecting, and I found it really interesting. I wanted to know, who was this new Batman? We knew it wasn't Bruce Wayne because Bruce Wayne died. There are other clues to other things that made me very interested. And then we have a resurrected Lois Lane in the body of a red tornado android. Wow, what? Okay, and another Kryptonian, and other things that just keep popping up. And the writer that took over, Tom Taylor, seemed to be doing some very interesting things. I'm a fan of Barry Kitson, who is doing the art. I thought, why not? And I've stayed on, and I read this issue. It was very interesting. This Aqua Woman, as they're calling her, she's not really Aqua Woman, but she seems to be some kind of goddess of the oceans. And her powers, you have a Dr. Fate, you have a semi-Justice Society building, but it's not really the Earth is decimated. People are dying by truckloads. Darkseid's forces are slowly taking over. You get terrible pictures of Arrow ads that don't describe how good the show is, just that everybody has six-pack abs. So I'm thinking Earth 2 is going in a really positive, strong direction, even though it's an apocalyptic book, it's a positive book. And then I read Earth 2 Annual number 2. It gives the origin of this Batman, this new Batman. And I hated it. I really hated it, and I can't put my finger on why I hate it exactly, because when I sit back and look at it, I should probably like it. But I think maybe in just the dialogue and the art feels. I'm not saying it feels like an annual artist. Hey, let's give this guy a shot. It's not bad. I've seen Roka's name before. I think the art is actually very good. I just can't figure out what it is about this book that I don't like. But this knocked me back quite a few steps, and I kind of have a feeling I may not be collecting this anymore. I have ordered the next 2 months if something changes in those 2 months, but the origin of this Batman really bummed me, and seems really post-it note, Band-Aid sticker, hey, this will work and this will fix something, but causes more questions in my head and doesn't quite work. So I don't want to ruin it for people, but it just, for me, it's even recently in the last few years been done before, so that annoyed me as well. So nope, I think I'm on the road to being done with that, depending upon the last two books. I have not read the most recent issue of New Avengers. You can't go wrong with Hickman in Avengers. He's been wonderful. I like what he's doing. I have not read this issue yet. The last issue with, I can't pronounce the artist's name, but Bianchi, he makes bicycles. It's beautiful art. It's very much the side of a 70s van, but for me, it really works with the storyline specifically. But I'm curious to read this issue to see if he continues with that. But, you cannot go wrong with Hickman and Avengers. I also apparently got X-Force #1. I liked Cable in the X-Force a little bit, but it wasn't enough that I think I stopped collecting the last 4 issues. It has since been canceled. I was not a fan of Uncanny X-Force that was trying to do a little bit of what the original Uncanny in the X-Force was doing. And it looks like they've kind of combined the teams a little bit. You have your traditional Cable, but it looks like he still doesn't have his techno-organic powers. Maybe. I can't quite tell. I haven't read this. And you have some of the Uncanny X-Force characters here. Spurrier's name I know. Kim's name I do not. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm hopeful. I also got Wolverine #1. Wonderful team. Everybody on that creative team, Stegman, Cornell, you can't go wrong with this. It's also building off the fact that Wolverine no longer has his healing factor, so he has to protect himself and be a little more withdrawn when he fights because he is used to being able to be shot in the head and survive. Well, he has an adamantium skeleton, but he does not have that healing factor, so he's a little more vulnerable. He's a lot more vulnerable. So I'm curious to see what happens with that. I don't think that one's going to lure me in very long. I just never have been a Wolverine collector as a whole. I enjoy the X-Men, but Wolverine as a solo series usually doesn't last too long. Speaking of books that need to be taken care of better, Scott Lobdell and Ed Baines' Superman with the Parasite on the cover. That's a nice looking cover. The interior with Ed Baines is not bad. I don't like what the inker is doing to Ed Baines' pencils. There seems to be too much dark and it's too sketchy of a pencil. unless that's the way he penciled it. I would have to see, but this doesn't look like traditional Ed Baines. Faces are wide and bodies are wide, but it feels a little sketchier than I'm used to seeing. And there's a little bit, I haven't read this issue, but I just kind of spoiled the ending. But Scott Lobdell's Superman has not been very good. I'm one of those that no matter how bad Superman is, I will probably collect the two major titles, Action and Superman. But we have learned that Jeff Johns and John Romita Jr. are taking over, and we will now have both books doing well, because Action with Greg Pak and Aaron Kuder is gorgeous. That might be one of my favorite covers of the New 52 Superman. It's up there. It's pretty high up there. That's a beautiful cover, and the fact that they made it on the nicer glossy stock paper, that's a beautiful cover. That is I would love that as a poster. The last few issues have been very good. I enjoy what they're doing. I enjoy the Lana relationship with Clark. I'm glad that hasn't been forgotten. It's a very good book. Following what happened with the all-new X-Men, we have all-new No, it's not all-new Avengers, but it is what appears to be Avengers from the past. But they might be Avengers from another universe. We don't know. They don't seem exactly like good guys. I have not read this issue, but the previous issue was very much a head-scratcher. Are they killing? What's going on? I was a little let down that it wasn't Diodato's art on the inside, because I love these covers. But again, it's Hickman, it's Avengers. You can't go wrong. The last issue was wonderful. I'm a big fan of what Hickman's doing on both Avenger titles and Avengers World. Running out here, I do have Justice League America. This book has really frustrated me, because I love the premise, the timing. You had the Trinity War building. You had so much potential. You had this antithesis team to the Justice League that I couldn't wait for. And they finally put the team together, and this crossover happens. And ever since this freaking crossover happens, they've done nothing with this book but have them fight inside of Firestorm. This potential has fallen. There is nothing going on in this book, and it really annoys me, because they really did a good job of setting up to get to this book, and they've done nothing with it. And the fact that they are then going to do Justice League Canada, which that doesn't going to happen now. Now it's going to be, I forget what. It looks like it's going to a really good creative team. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. It was going to be Justice League Canada. Adam Strange is going to be on the team. We don't know what's going to happen to the Green Lantern that they introduced and have barely used. It's really frustrating to me, because the potential was so high on that. And the goodwill coming off of the other Justice League team. I so badly wanted this Justice League America team to be something special, and it really has been kind of a So, going to other the last issue of Aquaman was full of political intrigue, and seemed like Paul Pelletier was staying just as strong as he had the last few issues, but there was a little magic missing. Since John's left, it's just not the Aquaman I want to read, and unfortunately, I think unless this issue and the next issue really wow me, I have the next two issues ordered. They're not doing with Aquaman what I want to read. I want to read intimate stories about him, his relationships. I don't want to know about the politics of being a king of Atlantis, especially when we just got done with the Sword of Atlantis, or the Throne of Atlantis crossover story. I want to know more about his relationship with Mara. I want to know about his relationship with the Justice League. Maybe introduce a new villain. This just feels like, Here's more politics. Well, who wants to read more politics? You got to steer Aquaman away from those boring subjects, or if you do, you do them in spoonfuls. I'll give it a try, but it just felt like that first issue with John's away was a real, haha, here's what you're going to get, and you probably won't like this. The remainder of my books here, I have Peter Tomasi's annual for Batman and Robin #2. Not really an origin, but a Dick Grayson story as Robin. I still really adjusting to the New 52's Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne. A lot has been lost, and Tim Drake probably has suffered the greatest, but none of the Robins come out of this unscathed. I am a fan of the costume this Robin gets, and I kind of like how he wanted to be Nightwing from the very get-go. I think that's a good take. It's a very good story. The art is beautiful. Tomasi does a really good job of maybe tying up some loose ends and such. I have a little bit of the all-new X-Men and Guardians of the Galaxy crossover. This story is awesome. There's some great little twists. Bendis is doing great for both books. If you're a fan of X-Men or if you're a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, this is a great crossover. Beautifully drawn, both books. Sarah Pichelli is one phenomenal artist. Oh my gosh, her female characters are gorgeous. Her Rocket is realistic yet cartoonish at the same time. This is a beautifully drawn book. She is one of my favorite artists right now. And then who do you counteract her with but Stuart Immonen, who is another one of my favorite artists. These two are bookends on Marvel's strengths when it comes to illustration. And Batman #28, which I went into thinking it was going to be more of the Batman 0 year, and it really wasn't. In fact, it's jumping ahead soon, is what they say. Batman soon, period. And on the front cover it says, A Secret Glimpse into Batman Eternal, which is the weekly series coming out about Batman. I think it starts in April. Could be wrong, but it's starting soon. Some big twists at the end of this. 2 big twists. If you knew, I kind of wish one of them hadn't been ruined, because the big one had been ruined. We knew that, spoiler, literally, was coming. So the fact that Spoiler is back was nice, because a lot of us were Stephanie Brown fans as Batgirl. I actually always adored her as Spoiler. I think she was meant to be Spoiler, and bringing her back as Spoiler and not as a Batgirl is fine with me. But it's leading into some other things. A new villain or an old villain who's villainous again. It's nice. It's a good book. Snyder can do no wrong on Batman, really. And then the last book I will at least mention is Forever Evil #5. This book feels like it's been going on forever. Since the Trinity War. I didn't realize that the Trinity War was not the story. It was Forever Evil and the Crime Syndicate were the real story. Having said that, it has been a wonderful story. It just feels like it takes forever for the next issue to come out. And you forget what had happened, and then you read it and you're like, oh, this is so good. Why can't I read the next issue? It is really a great crossover. I think it's really putting Luthor in the spotlight. I love what Sinestro does in this book. Sinestro is awesome. And Batman's kind of forced to not do things traditionally. Okay, I think I've at least covered everything. I've taken almost 40 minutes here, so I should probably wrap things up. Hopefully my next book won't be as long, or next review won't be as long. Anyway, and I will do one sooner. But thank you for watching Comicbook Crossfire, and as Tracy says, Excelsior!